Because 4 hours is way too long for a wrestling show. I mean, I'm of the opinion that the pay-per-views go too long, but this really was a little bit of a slog. But that doesn't matter. That's the fun part about it. I thought that, but there'll be other people out there doing backflips. And mainly, what I took away from the 4-hour block of AEW Dynamite, Collision, Fyter Fest that did air last night is that at the moment, All Elite Wrestling has some goodwill headed towards it, and it has all the momentum, at least it feels that way to me, going into All In, and that is when you want to peak. Now, there's this conversation going on now that WWE's gone this way and AEW's gone that way. It swings and roundabouts, man. I remember going to some WrestleManias recently, and you leave going, oh my gosh, WWE's the best thing ever. But then you go to an AEW show, you leave going, oh my gosh, it's the best thing ever. People come out of movies and go, it's the best movie I've ever seen. It's recency bias. It's because all your hormones and your endorphins are firing off all over the place. And that's actually, didn't even mean to talk about it like this way, the reason I'm not a big fan of 4-hour shows, because I get to about 3 hours and my body just goes, yeah, I'm done. And I sort of lose that fun. I get tired, essentially, like an old man. But it really, really doesn't matter. It happens once in a blue moon. And I think my favorite part about it is that we're just living in the best times when it comes to wrestling. The fact that we can even do this, and the fact there is a contingent who'll be like, oh my gosh, this is the best day of my life. I just think Tony Khan loves wrestling. I don't think that gets talked about enough. Like, there was a social media post that kind of went mini viral within the wrestling world of someone, I didn't understand the original post, but it was like, we need to gatekeep some people. And Tony Khan replied to this random account saying, no man, everybody is welcome. And he made a song quip as well. Was it a Creed song? I think Arms Wide Open, I think he mentioned, which was probably intentional. And I was like, that's the attitude that we need. You want 4 hours of wrestling? Great. You want to have a 60-minute wrestling show? Great. Let's just have something for everyone, from the casuals to the hardcores to the sickos. So, and also, really, when you go through a 4-hour show, there wasn't really much that I personally thought was terrible. I think the main event stuff for the men that we're doing heading into All In is brilliant. Will Ospreay being like, listen, Swerve, I tried to help you, but even in a week, I can't be bothered with this because you're driving me nuts is too much. You know what? I'll beat you up next week to try and prove a point. I mean, it's very insane, but I guess very pro wrestling. And then Will Ospreay has a match with Lio Rush, and the crew attack him, so out comes Hangman Adam Page, and he's just so nuanced as a character, which is a terrible thing to say, and you should hate me, absolutely. But it's like, listen, Will, you've got my back, so I've got yours, but I don't need your help winning that All Elite Wrestling belt. I'm going to do it by myself, and I promise that I will never accept help or take help from Swerve Strickland. So now you've got this really interesting dynamic, and I'm obviously speculating here, that if Swerve does decide to get involved, because Will punches him in the head enough, fine, I'll come and do it, that he may help even though Hangman doesn't want that. And then this goes back to the video we did last week. That can go two ways. Maybe he does help and then Hangman's like, oh my gosh, my emotions are all over the place. Or maybe he screws up and maybe there's something with MJF. And by accident, they take it away from Hangman Adam Page. Now, I wouldn't do that, but I think it's a brave move to make because if you pull it off in the right way, in terms of telling a story, it is a little bit like WrestleMania 39, but you have to make sure you pay it off in 6 months to a year. Do you want to wait that long? I don't know, but this is just me coming up with dumb ideas in my brain. But all those three guys doing great work, and Swerve wasn't even on this show, which somehow made it better. Was he in a backstage skit? There was so much. I don't believe that he was. But now we have this awesome match next week between Will and Swerve. Does Hangman get involved there? What's the ending of it? Is Swerve finally going to understand? Does Swerve win? They had a match before and Will Ospreay won. It is one of those matches you can probably get away with doing a DQ or something like that. But once again, if AEW has the balls to give me a winner and it's Swerve losing, which may actually humble Swerve, he's like, okay, fine, I get it. We do have to protect the Death Riders and protect them, get the Death Riders and protect that belt. And of course, we had the stare off between Hangman Adam Page and John Moxley too. And I like the way the Death Riders backed off. They were like, dude, there's two of you. I don't care that you've got chairs. We could murder you whenever we did want because they need Hangman Adam Page. Not Hangman Adam Page. I've watched too much wrestling and I did Ups and Downs, which is so long. But go check it out on What Culture Wrestling and subscribe to both, please. But they need Swerve Strickland, right? If he's not going to be there, it's like the old Stone Cold. The old Stone Cold. Although the old Stone Cold did do a heel turn. Remember when they did that? Came back. It's one of the greatest returns ever, even though Steve Austin was still in the company. So when Dominic Mysterio turned double heel, didn't make any sense. And then they still went back to him being a bad guy. They did not want that idea to drop. But yes, very, very good. The Mercedes Moné, Tony Storm stuff, very, very good. We just did a tag team match here. And it does kind of feel like maybe AEW is going to introduce women's tag team belts. Because here, Julia Hart and I always forget names because I'm an idiot, Sky Blue teamed up. When they lost, they were always going to have to lose because Tony Storm's on the other side. I don't care about that as long as there is a story coming out the back of it. But Ty Mello returned later as well to take Harley Cameron's place alongside Anna Jay, obviously Megan Bay, Penelope Ford. There'll be other people I'm not not thinking of right now. So you could introduce them. I don't mind the belts being introduced as long as there is a plan and they don't vanish. Like, I still get a bee in my bonnet about the Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez WWE ones, because they were on a great run with all the Bianca Belair and Naomi stuff, and at the moment they're just persona non grata, and it gets me mad, because I am a massive nerd. But I liked all the Toni Storm, Mercedes Moné. We had a bit of goofy wrestling for life, and we've got like 4 episodes of Dynamite and loads more collisions before we get to the pay-per-view. You can have a little bit of fun. Some people out there, I swear, just don't want to have any fun when it comes to wrestling. Everything has to be serious. You don't think these two can't flip the serious switch when they need to. You don't think they're experienced enough to know when that comes. You don't think Tony Khan knows this. At this point, you could have a little bit more fun with it. We set the seed last week, right? And we continue that on. So here, I thought it was awesome Mercedes Moné had a meal when she was watching wrestling, because that's a wrestling trope, right? Out comes a person to watch their opponent in a match or whatever, and they sit there and they do commentary. Not Mercedes, she ate a massive steak. What has marked out commentary that she had a massive steak. And at the end, Toni Storm was eating and she was eating. It was weird and it was flubbed up in many ways, but it's just a little piece of the puzzle, and then we can move on to something else. And also, it's not like we haven't established this already. Toni Storm in the build-up to pay-per-views will have fights and win, and she'll have fights and win, and she doesn't care, and sometimes she gets rolled up by Mina Shirakawa, who is her new best friend. So I just thought it was fun, and I liked it, and I thought it was good. We also continued to tease Adam Cole versus Kyle Fletcher. That was our proper main event, which is the Don Callis family versus the Paragon, essentially, with some other bodies thrown in there. Daniel Garcia. Obviously, Daniel Garcia wants the TNT title. With this, I just think it needs more time to cook, and I think it needs some promos. I know we got a few here, but it was more focused on this match. I think we need to decide, are we going to do the 3-way, for example, which you're perfectly fine with, Adam Cole, Daniel Garcia, and Kyle Fletcher, but let them talk to each other. Let's sell the characters. Let's sell the importance of the TNT Championship. That belt still feels a bit wishy-washy, especially when you compare it to that 4-way that we got. Oh my gosh. It was Mascara Dorada versus Brody King versus Claudio versus Kenny Omega for the international title. I said this on Ups and Downs as well. There's nothing I can do here. It was probably 20 minutes, but it was like a sprint. Doesn't make any sense. How can you do a sprint for 20 minutes? But Kenny Omega is just next level generational talent as far as I'm concerned. And he has that connection with the fans. They go crazy. Brody King and Claudio Castagnoli kind of fit into the same scenario right now. I throw Josh Alexander in there too. There's so much more we can do with them. I'm just happy they're being featured, but if at one point you wanted to pull the trigger, you could. Dorado is just flipping around the place. He's very talented. I think he's super young too. But the end of this, I mean, it was Dorado that got grabbed with the one-wheel angel 1, 2, 3. But the end of this, when Claudio and Brody were swinging each other and throwing each other, and big men slapping man meeting each other, it was just so much fun to watch. Like, it was incredible. It was like somebody took an adrenaline shot and smashed it into your face. Then afterwards, what do we get? No wasting around now. Okada comes out, punches Kenny Omega right in the tum-tum, which is a flubbed up thing to do. And then before the main event, or at some point during the second hour part of the proceedings, or the fourth hour technically, we got the announcement. That all in, it's Okada versus Kenny Omega. And some people like to act like this isn't a big deal. I think it's massive. I think what's happened over the last 6 years, I believe, the last time they fought, maybe 7, it was 2018, maybe they were on in 2019, is that we've been spoiled as wrestling fans. And this is not criticism. I think it's awesome the world we're living in. And we kind of forgot what the wrestling landscape was back in 2018. If you had told someone these guys are going to take a long period off and they are going to have a match in the USA in a stadium for a company called AEW, they'd be like, what are you talking about, weird man from the future? Is this the plot to Back to the Future 4? So I'm super excited about it. I think it's going to be great. I think they are too good to not understand the legacy that they provided with this. And even if it is 1/10 of what it was before, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be excellent. And it's going to be something we talked about for ages. But also, I'm calling this era the never say never era, which has always been the way for wrestling, but now I feel like we've ramped it up. We're getting Kenny Omega versus Okada number 5. I think I always get that wrong. Like I say, in America, in a stadium, for AEW, an all-elite wrestling company. It's just so amazing that these things happen. And who knows what else is going to go down, right? All these other things we never expect, like R-Truth getting fired. That's one of the bad ones. But the point is, nothing is off the table. Everything can happen. So, yeah, I just saw some negative Nancy's always going, oh, man, it's not that big a deal. Well, you don't have to think it's a big deal. It all depends on your relationship with those matches. But for people that were into them, I think it's important to remember this is why it's great to have all these wrestling promotions, especially someone that has the infrastructure and the size and the courage, I suppose. Courage is not the right word. But, not everybody would go and book a stadium thinking we may only get 20,000 people here, and we're still going to stick Kenny versus Okada in it. I'm just super excited about it. And the match before, and it's title versus title, so I would merge those titles, because then, let's say Kenny Omega wins, he'll be the International Continental Champion, which is actually the IC title. Maybe that's what they're going to do. Not a bad way around it, But that will help the TNT belt as well, because less belts means more time just to get them over. And I really enjoy the Hurt Syndicate and MJF stuff. MJF is still getting involved in the world title because he went to yell at Will Ospreay, and he was really rude because he knows the Hurt Syndicate has got their back. And I'm way down for Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight being the challengers. My only worry is we did this exactly the same as we've done all the other ones. So they just walk out, we're going to beat you. MVP goes, haha, no, you're not. They have a trios match, and then from nowhere, they're having a trios match with the Hurt Syndicate next week. Now, the reason I think we're going to get to that tag team title match is I think MJF is going to screw up, and that'll be the first seed or one of the seeds planted that's not going to go well. But when we get to Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin versus Bailey and Knight, I'm just worried I'm not going to believe in Kevin Knight and Mike Bailey, and I don't want that so soon. Because Kevin Knight and Nick Wayne both came back from New Japan. They feel like badasses, right? And it's really, really great. And they both got wins on this show. Nick Wayne defended his ROH TV title after Christian Cage had thrown him into a match. And I assume we're going to do that in All In too. And the three-way that we did do with Commander with a K, Mike Bailey, and not Speedball, it's the same person, and Kevin Knight. That was really, really fun too. Another party match. We had 3 party matches on this show because there was so much time. But I just think it's too soon. I think we kind of needed to elongate it. I kind of felt that way with Ospreay and Lio Rush that we also set up. These are things that every now and then we can stretch out. But then again, when you've got a 4-hour show, you've got to put something on it. So that is interesting. Someone told me I missed something with Tekla and Lady Frost. I understand they talked about that, Jamie Hayter's in a bad way right now. I don't think that was sold on TV. And even if that was your plan, I think Jamie Hayter needed to get her revenge instantly because she lost at Double or Nothing, and then she got her ass whipped. I felt like she needed to be up in the equation here, especially because, Tekla beats Lady Frost. You'll beat Queen Aminatu, who made the save next week, you'd imagine, which is good. That's a good debut. 2 wins back-to-back. Can't get mad at that. And took out a top star. But if at All In, it is going to be Jamie Hayter versus Tekla. Tekla can't lose there. You don't want Jamie Hayter to lose there, which is why I think in the build, Jamie Hayter needs to come across like an absolute monster. So there are a few things that I think, again, I always say this, but I need to wait and see, because sometimes AEW can retroactively work on these things. They actually have, more thought out ideas than I expected them to do. But would I call it a treat? I don't know if I'd call it a treat. I found it fascinating to wake up this morning in the early hours and watch 4 hours of wrestling and then see people on social media saying I have to end here because I have to go to work, and other people getting up later and seeing how I'm going to fit this in. I mean, it's kind of bonkers, and you couldn't do it every week. I would get worn out super duper quick. But there was something hilarious about it. And there'll be loads of stuff I haven't even talked about. I mean, I didn't even talk about the Bandido and Outrunners getting together. How did that match even finish? I can't remember. I know that the Outrunners took the pin. Oh, that was Takeshita and Carl Fletcher. So, of course, we're just putting those guys up. And they could go after the Hurt Syndicate as well. AEW is in a very good position is what I'm trying to say. And every now and then they'll just do mad stuff. Like the FTR match against the CMLL guys that is tying into the Mexican show that I think is next week on 2 weeks. We're doing MJF versus Mystico. So there was a lot of pre-planning here. It was also a lot like, this is a lot coming at my face. But I am enjoying talking about it. And there were a lot of fun to be had. And given that the Women's Championship should be the biggest and the Men's World Championship should be the biggest, they feel like the biggest. It's a shame, which I don't know if there's the right word, but we're quite clearly marginalising Mercedes' TBS title right now because that's not going to be included. It's not going to be an Ultimate Warrior Hulk Hogan situation. And I think that's probably because Kenny and Okada are doing a title versus title, so you don't want to do that twice in the same show. It will take something away from it. But I wonder whether we could have figured out some daft 4-way where Mercedes didn't get pinned, but she lost to get that championship on somebody else. Because again, there was no Willow Nightingale, there was no Chris Statlander. I mean, maybe there's reasons I don't know why they're on the show, but there were some other people that, right, so if I knew it was going to be Chris versus Willow for the TBS title at All In, I think that's something that you really could have started leaning into here too, because those guys are amazing together as well. And I think Harley Cameron's taken some time off, which is why Ty Mello came back. Again, always happy with a big return like that. I think she's been through a lot and she got a nice pop. And fair play to the crowd as well. They stuck with this the entire time. I don't know how they did it. I would have been just exhausted. But yes, as a one-off and as something crazy to do, I was a huge fan of it. I could not last if we did it again. But I sort of had a moment where I took a step back and I thought about it from childhood Simon. I didn't even know what I would have thought about this. I mean, I used to get 4 hours of wrestling max a week. That was WCW and WWE, and sometimes it was even hard to find them because the distribution wasn't as good. Now you can take in as much as you want. You can access it in clip form. I just think it's a good time for pro wrestling. Whether you're a WWE guy or an AEW guy, it's totally irrelevant. And the companies are going to ride different waves of momentum at different times. It's a couple of thumbs up from me. I'm just enjoying wrestling right now, and I'm enjoying you. So listen, drop me a comment below. Let me know what you thought about all of this madness. If you didn't like it, I totally get it. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the video on the screen, which is me talking about Monday Night Raw madness as well. Otherwise, it's patreon.com/Simon316. We're doing our watch-alongs. The third video will be recorded this week. It does look like we're doing the R-Truth tag match as Survivor Series. And we've got a bunch of other ones on there as well. Thank you so much for the support. Please do the same with gridmind.com/Simon. You go to Simon, get money off. It ships worldwide. I promise you these supplements work. Otherwise, I wouldn't pimp them out. Simon316 on social media. Simon J. Miller on TikTok. Simon Miller on Cameo. Get those Father's Day messages in, should you wish. Big Cartel. Pro Wrestling Tees. That's it. I have to go somewhere now. Why it's a little bit short, but I appreciate you, my friends, and I'll see you soon.